What we discussed yesterday basically were four challenges which India faced. As soon as we got independence, we had four challenges to be tackled. The first is basically the partition and the humanitarian crisis. Humanitarian crisis. Which and administrative crisis which followed. Thereafter, we talked about economic crisis, that we had an economy which was again in tatters, economic crisis. Third was the institutional issues, that all our institutions were colonial, not geared for democracy. And the biggest issue which we saw, and that is what we were discussing, 565 princely states and their integration. This is called the integration of princely states into India. And we saw that basically the British had created this whole constellation of princely states along with British India. And independence was only given to British India, not to princely states. And the princely states had basically three options: either to join India, or to join Pakistan, or to remain independent. And now it was on the Iron Man of India, Sardar Patel, to work out how to make sure that every unit was integrated. And whilst his tactics of basically offering them paramountcy in a different packaging itself, along with the aspect of an imminent threat, the three messiest of all were basically Hyderabad, Junagadh, and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir. Jodhpur is an interesting story, but it needed a little bit of ingenuity. Junagadh, basically, the ruler wanted to be part of Pakistan. People rebelled. And thereafter, Indian army was sent when the Diwan asked for it. The brutalest of all of them was Hyderabad, where again the Nizam either wanted to be part of Pakistan but remain independent. Here again people rebelled, and thereafter there were the Razakars, who technically started to rain down terror on the people itself, and Patel could not tolerate the people getting killed because they wanted to be part of India, and again army action. Here it is technically what is called as referendum or plebiscite, Here it is army action. And now what is technically left for today is the case study of Kashmir. That what happened in Kashmir. So if you understand the basic point that India had no choice but to be very, very ingenuity driven, use their mind with regards to how they integrated these states. Now what is left is Jammu and Kashmir. People played a very important role. That is true. People played an important role in Travancore. People played an important role in Hyderabad. People played an important role in Junagadh. People played an important role in most of these princely states, because the people want to be the part of India. the Democratic Republic of India and not be part of these princely states, which were just a reminiscence of the past. So, if we are clear about the basic strategy and if you can understand and make sense of what is the strategy which Patel is following, then we talk about the concept of Kashmir, which I gave you an overview about, but I will discuss that again today. Yes, everyone's ready. Everybody is comfortable. Don't have to worry. We will go slow today. And more than that, just to give you a taste, I have this with me, which is that what are the keywords. We will discuss answer writing once we've covered a certain part of the class. I'll talk about how these words are different to each other and how they are. So I have this with me. This was an agenda for a lot of you, and we will discuss how about answer writing in that sense, right? So this is there. Don't have to worry in any way or form. We'll have a discussion. We'll have a discussion to do what with these words. Now, third challenge is that all Racha, the fact is of the matter is all institutions were colonial. They were not geared for democratic experience, but rather they were actually based on the concept of exploitation. So that is the problem. Yeah, so I told you that the words which are used in the examination, I will discuss them with you and I will discuss with you. Now, let's talk about Jammu and Kashmir. Sorry. Let's talk about Jammu and Kashmir. And when we talk about Jammu and Kashmir, it's a curious case. It's a curious case wherein the ruler is Hari Singh. It's a Hindu ruler, and 60 to 70% of the population, sometimes 75%, is Muslim population. And the simple point is that they are happy with Hari Singh. They are happy with Hari Singh, that there is no real discord or any form of tension in Jammu and Kashmir at this point of time. So as of 1947, this is the position. Hari Singh is the ruler, 60 to 70% Muslim population. Now, the problem of the story is that Pakistan was getting frustrated. It was getting frustrated because Junagadh got stuck, Hyderabad was getting stuck. Somehow it was not getting anything which it wanted within mainland India. And the problem of Pakistan basically is that its main river, which has now also become its sorrow, which is Indus, the Indus River originates in China and then first flows into Jammu and Kashmir, and its tributaries then flow into Pakistan. And Pakistan always believed that it needed to secure its main river or its most important economic resource, which is water. Now, with regards to Pakistan, they now don't want to wait. They do not want to wait, and they want to force the issue. And this is what they will do in Jammu and Kashmir. As of 1947, Hari Singh chose to be independent, and he said that he would not like to be part of either Pakistan and India. And India was ready to honor that, but Pakistan wasn't. And that is why when Pakistan will get to know that Hari Singh wants to remain independent, now their idea is that they will force the issue in Jammu and Kashmir. And on 15th August 1947, and even before that, 10 to 15 days before that, the Pakistani army now starts to infiltrate into. There are two very important words here. One is called Gilgit Baltistan. Now, I'll show it to you on a map first so that you have a basic idea. There, India has 2 ears. India has 2 ears. One second. Yeah. India has 2 ears. One is this one, one is this one. Now, this area is basically called Gilgit and Baltistan. And the problem with Gilgit Baltistan is very cold in the winter, and the entry into Gilgit Baltistan is also very limited, very limited, very limited. And what happens basically is that as soon as Hari Singh says that I don't want to be part of Pakistan, now Pakistani army starts to infiltrate into these two sectors. And what they do is that they cross over with the Pathani and the Pashtuni tribes in this sector, and they now start to move towards Srinagar. Their first task was that they tried to entice the people against Hari Singh. They tried to ask the people that your ruler is a Hindu, fight him, say that you want to be part of Pakistan. But the people of Kashmir and Jammu both were not falling for this trap. And they very simply said that we will not rise against our own ruler. So now the Pakistani army need to take this in their own hand. Which is that basically they will now need to fight Hari Singh's army. Hari Singh never had a very big army. And after moving from this sector, they now towards Jammu. They move towards Jammu. And whilst moving towards Jammu, now they are entering into Srinagar. And Hari Singh is caught fully off guard with the Pakistani army standing 2 to 3 kilometers away from Srinagar. Now Hari Singh is going to call Patel, and he will say that though I did not sign the instrument of accession, you honored my wish. However, the problem is that Pakistan has now reached very close to Srinagar, and I need India's help. Please send your army to defeat the Pakistani army. Now, Patel had a very standard issue. Patel said that if we send our army today, and you are technically an international territory, then on an international level, we lose face, because then what is the difference between me or we and Pakistan? Because if they have infiltrated illegally, we have also infiltrated illegally. So I cannot help you. As it is, I told you, my intelligence told you that Pakistan was uneasy. Now you ignored it, and I have no other option. The only way the Indian army enters into this sector is when you sign the instrument of accession. Hari Singh will cut the call. He will call Mountbatten, and he will say to Mountbatten that I called Patel, the situation is dire, I need Indian help. He is saying that I need to sign the instrument of accession. What is the solution to this issue? Mountbatten will say that Patel is totally right. According to international law, he can't send an army into your territory. Pakistan is doing it illegally. However, India would not do it. You only have the option to sign the instrument of accession. And it is in this context that Jammu and Kashmir, as a princely state, joined India via the instrument of accession. And as soon as he signed the instrument of accession, close to 100 planes were ready to take the Indian army to Srinagar. Airdropped into Srinagar, now we start to push back the Pakistanis. But as much as we are able to push back throughout the Jammu sector, the problem is as soon as we reach the Gilgit-Baltistan sector, it becomes extremely cold. With the winters of Kashmir, there was no way that the army could fight either side. Air support was not possible. Generally, the whole structure was not conducive for warfare. And now Nehru, in his one of the most foolish moves, which he also admitted to later, believed that the United Nations was a body which can resolve disputes, he took the issue of Kashmir to the UN. However, the UN at this point of time basically was just a mouthpiece of the US, and because India had chosen to be non-aligned and Pakistan had become readily a part of American politics, the simple point of the matter was that the UN was a biased body towards Pakistan. Now the ceasefire line is going to be signed, a ceasefire is going to happen, and therein comes the concept of LOC, the line of control. The LOC is going to become basically the line where the war stopped between India and Pakistan. This is an internationally recognized line. However, what basically they occupy is an Indian territory illegally occupied by Pakistan. One thing should be very clear, that Gilgit and Baltistan both are illegally occupied by Pakistan. LAC is with China. That's a separate issue altogether tomorrow. Now the problem in this story is that between 1947 and 1950, the UN just did a drama over Pakistan, just did a drama over Kashmir. And in 1951, it gave a resolution, which is called the UN Resolution on Kashmir. However, the problem is that people criticize that India had never or has never applied the UN resolution on Kashmir. But there's a very specific wording which is there in the UN resolution. The solution which was given by UN in 1951 was that Pakistan should withdraw its army from the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, sector, and UN will hold a referendum, nothing but a voting, to ask the people, do they want to be part of India or do they want to be part of Pakistan? Now, people say that India never did it because we feared that the people will say to go to Pakistan. But this is the line we actually concentrate on. Has Pakistan vacated POK? Has Pakistan removed its army from POK? No? Then why should we hold the referendum? Simple point of the matter is, we don't fear the mandate of the people. We don't fear the fact that people will not choose us. But we can't have an army pressurize the people to vote in a certain way. The UN resolution has two parts. First part, second part. If Pakistan will never honor the first part, why should we honor the second part? And basically, Kashmir has been, will be, and is a part of India which Pakistan illegally occupies. We have never ever feared the mandate of the people because we know that democracy wins over military rule. But the basic point of the matter is that the UN resolution on Kashmir was just dirty politics of the West. It was all just dirty politics of the West. Because if they had to find a genuine solution to this issue, then they would have actually genuinely given a standard concept. We hold the instrument of accession. We have the document with us. And Hari Singh, irrespective of whatever the context may be, signed that document in full free will and under no pressure. The pressure as it is was not created by India, but by Pakistan, but by Pakistan. So the simple point of the matter is, when it comes to Kashmir, it is an uncompromising and undeniable fact that Kashmir was never Pakistan's and it will never be Pakistan's. And the basic point of the matter is, Gilgit-Baltistan is what the British, what the Pakistanis basically occupy illegally. Are we clear about what is our approach here? If there's a referendum, people will choose India because India is a better country to be in. It's a democratic country. Pakistan is all about now that nobody is going to choose Pakistan. That's a separate issue altogether. So simple point of the matter is that Kashmir is an issue which Pakistan does not want to resolve. Please understand this very, very clearly. Why UN interfered in this issue? Because we took it to the UN, the first and the last time we ever involved the UN in anything. Referendum did not happen because Pakistan never withdrew the army only. So, see, the point is this the best time? Is this the last time? That is not the point. The point of the matter is, when was it best time? When is not best time? That's not the point. The point is, it's a resolution. It's a resolution. The whole world sees the referendum part, but they don't see the first part. But isn't the first part equally important to the second part? That if there is referendum, it cannot happen under military rule. Pakistan is a puppet state. Pakistani democracy is a joke because at the end of the day, it is all ruled by the army. So, simple point, referendum means voting. They will be given a piece of paper, say which country you want to be part of, India, Pakistan. So, the fact that the referendum is free and fair only happens when the first part is actually true. Because the military can pressurize the people, it can influence the people. So when it comes to Kashmir, our funda is very clear. Let them do say whatever they want to say. Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, now UT of Jammu and Kashmir, is basically and has been part of India, and it is illegal occupation. It is proper illegal occupation. Yes? If this is clear, you want to see the map. We are talking about this area. Talk about this area. Yes, Unnati. Yes. So let's read it out. What you have to write in the examination, I'm telling you. Are we clear about this whole issue? Are we clear about this issue? Okay. Ladakh is part of this whole sector. Ladakh comes with the whole Jammu and Kashmir sector we control. Hindu ruler Hari Singh, close to 75% of the population was Muslim, decided to accede neither to India or to Pakistan. Pakistan tries to short circuit the process. On 22nd October, Pakistani army crosses over with the Pathani tribesmen. And on 24th October, Hari Singh demands military assistance from Indian government. Mountbatten pointed out that under international law, India can send its troops only after state signs a formal instrument of accession. VP Menon will go to Kashmir and he will sign on 26th October the instrument of accession. And on 27th October, nearly 100 planes will airlift men and weapons to Krishninagar. Pakistani army left the main valley, but they continued to occupy a large chunk of Gilgit-Baltistan region. Sheikh Abdullah will become the prime minister under the structure of what was called the Jammu and Kashmir government at that point of time. And India, however, decided to take this issue to the UN. Security Council was this Pakistan. Both USA and Britain were playing games and supporting Pakistan. And even Nehru accepted that there was dirty politics. Finally, after a Security Council resolution, there was a ceasefire on 1st January 1948, and India and Pakistan now hold what is called the LOC, the line of control. In 1951, UN passed a resolution for the referendum under UN supervision after Pakistan has withdrawn its troops. The resolution remains ineffective because Pakistan never withdrew its troops from what it calls Azad Kashmir, but technically not the right word. It is Pakistan occupied Kashmir. It has never been Azad Kashmir. It has never will be Azad Kashmir. It has always been the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. That is why it's called POK. So simple point of the matter, Kashmir has been, will be, and is a part of India. Can't we remove Pakistan from POK? Then it would mean more war, proper war it would mean. Gilgit and Baltistan is our territory. Jay, there should be no doubt. It is our territory, but under illegal occupation by Pakistan. Yashorban, there is no basic recognition of the UN. UN calls it a disputed territory, but technically it isn't. It is part of the Indian map, very clearly. POK as of right now is Indian territory occupied by Pakistan. Pakistan technically has not full control also. It is just that it is one territory which somehow the LOC does not allow us to go forward to. Why doesn't India take control of POK? Aren't we the ones who actually are the legitimate? You need to understand this. It's an illegal occupation. Removing Pakistan would mean war. So it would be a proper war which would be needed. So the LOC, yes, still exists till today. Still exists. See, Kashmir is a mess, which Pakistan does not want a solution to. See, Pakistan very well knows that it is legitimate territory of India. It is just hiding behind the UN resolution, and India is ready to honor the UN resolution. That's it. Because the day will come that the referendum will happen. The day will come that the Pakistani army will be removed from this sector. But when we talk about Kashmir, we have to keep it simple for the examination. Kashmir is, will be, and is, and has been always a part of India. Are we clear about this issue? Because the LOC exists today, but it is just a line which the UN drew. That's it. Okay. See, Pakistani politics is based on Kashmir. They cannot fight on anything else. So that is the basic point. Their obsession with Kashmir has led to them to this path. That's the basic point. Sachin, UN is not a very innocent body. The UN is equally a bad body. It's a body which is biased. It is biased towards the US, and we'll talk about that. Yes, Vijay. Yes. Yes, if Pakistan is ready to withdraw the army, we are ready to take the voting. Don't you get it? Pakistan will never withdraw the army. We would have to make them do it because they know as soon as they withdraw the army, the people will automatically ask to be part of India because they're already part of India. So they are just trying to force the issue here, and their politics and their expenditure in all these parts are basically futile. Simple point of the matter is, see, listen to me. Kashmir is part of India. If today I pass a resolution that Sri Lanka is part of India, does it automatically become part of India? If our parliament says that Sri Lanka is part of India, does it make Sri Lanka part of India? Obviously not. So the Pakistanis can say whatever they want to say. They are just doing random drama over Kashmir. See, simple. See, listen to me. There is a solution, but there needs to be cooperation. But there's no cooperation. The only solution as of right now is Pakistan wants a war, which we don't want because it is already our territory. So let Pakistan prove that it is their territory. It has always been a part of our country. So why fight over it when it is a part of our country? The UN resolution, as it is, basically is as of right now not applied because of the first part. Can we move to Goa and Puducherry? The polity aspect of this, as it is, you will do in polity, which is 35A. All of that is now technically futile because 370 does not exist, 35A does not exist. But you will do it in polity, the whole concept of the special status which was given to Jammu and Kashmir. Now, technically, it's a UT with legislation and without legislation. That is the basic point, Prashantu. That when Hari Singh signed the accession, why did the UN not respect it? Because the UN was pro-Pakistan. That's the basic point. Okay. Now, when we talk about India, we are ending the now. Can I give you a question, and you see whatever question can come? Basically, they not ask you a solution for Kashmir. UPSC will not ask you a solution for Kashmir. Let me ask you a question with regards to this whole area. The process of integration of princely states into India was a carefully crafted plan of Patel. Discuss. Can you discuss the strategies, the considerations of Sardar Patel? Again, Pranay, they will know not see, can't expect you. You go inside the interview and then they say, okay, tell us the solution for Kashmir. There is no, in UPSC interviews, they don't steer it like this. They know there's no answer to this. Your answer to this question, what about Kashmir? Now listen to me. What about Kashmir? Is that, sir, it has always been, is, and will be a part of India. And Pakistan wants a war over its illegal occupation. We are ready to honor the UN resolution if Pakistan is ready to withdraw its army. Can you say this much? Because we don't fear the mandate of the people, Pakistan should. Now you have the answer for the interview also? Yes? Okay. Unnati, they can do whatever they want to say. Pakistan can say they have Afghanistan also. They can say they have now America also. Just passing resolution in parliament does not make any sense. As I said, if today I say that Britain is part of India, the parliament, there's a bill which is passed that Britain is now an extension of India. It has no legal force. Same way, Pakistan can do whatever it wants to do. This, you need to understand this point. In this question, what you need to do is, you have to tell the examiner what was the basic plan of integration of princely states. So the three considerations he had, then the concept he introduced, and how the Mountbatten speech also played a important role. Right? Okay. Now, We can pass a bill for Gilgit-Baltistan. Yes, that's why we have made it a UT. So now the center can do anything. Okay. Yeah, you can talk about VP minus rule also. Now, everybody's with me. Can we talk about Goa and Pondicherry? Very small discussions, but interesting. Yes? Okay. Now, when we talk about Goa, see, in India, there was not one but three powers which were left in some way or the form. You have the British, then you have the Portuguese, and then you have the French. Now, the Portuguese were in Goa, the French were in Puducherry, or what they used to call Pondicherry. And now we need to see how these two areas got integrated. Now, Goa was a little bit of a messy issue because the Portuguese had a very hard line on Goa. The Portuguese understanding and basic concept was that Goa existed even before British India. And that is true. 1529, 1510, the Portuguese already had control over Goa. So when in 1947 India did get independence, India did approach the Portuguese government that Goa is a part of India and we would like you to transfer Goa to India. The Portuguese government said that we existed in Goa even before the British did. And basically, your Government of India acts and all these rules don't apply to us. Goa is a part of the Portuguese metropole or Portuguese empire. And at this point of time, Goans were also a little bit, a section of the Goans were also a little bit happy in the sense that they thought that they would get full citizenship of Europe, technically the EU, by being an extension of the Portuguese. They were technically getting citizenship of a European country. So a section within Goa was happy that the Portuguese were not giving up Goa to India. However, what they did not realize was that Portugal had a totally different plan for this whole sector, because the Goans were never given full citizenship. They were always considered inferior to the main Portuguese population. And now the point is very simple. That India did create a lot of pressure. So the first thing is that as soon as Portugal will say that we will not be a part of this whole process, or Goa will not become a part of India, India as it is stopped all diplomatic relationship between Portugal and India. So they said that if this is the case, we don't want to have diplomatic relationship with a country which still believes in colonialism. Then, over a period of time, the Goans were trading with India and they were prospering, and Portugal was getting the money out of that trade. So India was then, as soon as there was a movement which starts within Goa which said that we want to be part of India, India will introduce what are called economic sanctions, which is that it was now technically not allowed that Maharashtra could trade with Goa, or Goa could not trade with India, and there's an economic blockade which is created, all to create pressure. But the turning point comes in the 1950s, 54 period, when there's a band of 2,000 to 3,000 people who were protesting against the illegal occupation, and they wanted to cross over to the border from Maharashtra to Goa in solidarity with the movement which was inside Goa, and the police will then shoot on them. And 32 people will be shot. 32 people will be shot. And basically, this will lead to either more bitterness in this relationship, and India will then even withdraw the Indian High Commissioner in Goa and in Portugal both. But the way India now saw it was that the Goan integration or liberation was only going to happen via military action. And the biggest turning point is going to be that when there is a people's movement in Daman and Diu will get liberated because of people's rebellion. But in Goa, the Portuguese are very heavy-handed. The people started to realize that Portugal is only discriminating against them. People were starting to realize that the Goans were not given full rights. So now the movement starts to intensify. And when a ship which was crossing over from Indian territory is going to be shot at, when the Portuguese are going to shoot a ship on the Kerala coast, then India will say enough is enough. And India will thereafter create immense pressure, and via Operation Vijay in 1961, India will liberate Goa. And Goa will become the part of India in 1961. So it is quite late, close to 20 years after independence, and all because of the attitude of the Portuguese. So when we talk about Goa, 1950, the government started to create pressure on the Portuguese via diplomacy, negotiation for the independence of Goa. No, it is not a part of Portuguese today, it is part of India. However, Portugal refused, saying that Goa and its territories around it were not Indian possessions, but were an integral part of the metropolitan or metropole of the Portuguese. And since Indian Republic had not even existed when Goa became a part of Portugal, there was no point of asking for Goa's merger. So in 1953, Indian diplomatic mission at Lisbon was withdrawn. Basically, the diplomatic mission was withdrawn, that we will not have a diplomatic relationship with you if you are going to have this type of an attitude. Therefore, by 1954, India imposed travel restrictions between India and Goa, which impeded transportation from Goa and other Portuguese enclaves while traveling within Indian territory. Now, economic blockades were also created, but the first turning point is going to come in 1955, when 3,000 unarmed Indian civilians tried to enter Goa, but they were rebuffed or technically shot at by the Portuguese police, and 30 people were killed. And that year, the Indian Council Office, which is the Indian High Commissioner's office in Goa, was shut down. There was huge outcry amongst the Indian people against Portuguese continuance in Goa. And by this time, India was seriously contemplating military action against Portuguese presence in Goa. And that is a basic point. They had now fully created an understanding that simply India can only liberate Goa. It cannot do it through diplomatic means. And once, even before that, when Dagdar and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu will get liberated because of people's action, which is the United Front of the Goans, Azad Gomantak Dal, and the National Movement Liberation Organization, these organizations which existed in other Portuguese enclaves, when they were able to persuade India to annex this territory, it is in November of 1961, when a passenger boat plying between the Anedive Islands held by Portugal and Kochi was fired upon by the Portuguese. that India will go in 1961, late 1961, for what is called Operation Vijay, and Goa is going to become part of India in 1961. Goan story is clear. Again, we don't expect a question on Goa and on Pondicherry, but still I'm telling you the basic story. Are we clear about Goa? There's nothing here. Please remember, facts don't matter. Have to create an understanding. That is it. Great. Now, Aman, that's a separate issue altogether, because this is a very small sector. That is a very big sector. A very difficult terrain to fight in also. Okay. What India did in Operation Vijay, that basically on in 1961 they contemplated first creating proper blockade, then the navy got involved. Portugal was asked to surrender because of its attack on Indian territory in a way, and there's a small skirmish which happens, which ends with, as it is, people were already desperate to become part of India. Now Pondicherry is not a very messy story, but is an interesting one. Now again, Pondicherry becomes a part of France. India asks for Pondicherry, Yanam, Mahe, Karikal, the whole sector of the French, and India was very clear about the issue with Pondicherry. That again, it is French territory. It is French territory, and it needs to become a part of India. But the problem was that France again did not want to give Pondicherry to India, and as much as that, the people also wanted to be part of France. This is a standard feature which is there in Goa and in Pondicherry, that they are first initially excited that they will become a part of a European nation and not the part of India. However, the problem here again is that France is going to start to do things which is not going to make the people very happy. But the Constituent Assembly actually sent a person to negotiate with France, which is Jerome D'Souza. And when we talk about Jerome D'Souza, he goes from India to France to negotiate for Pondicherry. But the problem was that basically France will say at this point of time that let's do one thing. Let's hold a plebiscite. Let's hold a referendum. That would give legal basis to our existence in India. Now you tell me one thing. In 1947, if there's a plebiscite which is going to happen, will it be pro-India or anti-India? Or will it say that we want to be part of India or we want to be part of France? Very good. Basically, now there's an illusion in their mind that basically that we are going to be part of France, A major chunk of the people would be like, why be part of India when you become part of France? So when Jerome D'Souza comes to Patel and Nehru and says that let's do one thing, the French are saying that let's hold a plebiscite. Patel says, leave it. Let us not give them a legal basis. Leave it. Let these people enjoy being part of France, and they will automatically start to realize what is the importance of being in a democratic country. And that is why Patel Nehru said that let them enjoy, no issues, because we will not give them the satisfaction of having a referendum, because France is always going to then quote the referendum. So we said, okay, let Pondicherry be part of France. We are not going to interfere in this issue. And that is what India does also. But ironically, by 1954, there was a movement which started in Pondicherry as it is, standard story as Goa and in Pondicherry, that the people started to basically realize that there is no point staying with France because France is not giving us all the rights. There we are not considered EU citizens. We are considered a second substandard type of citizenship. And in Pondicherry, India did not do anything. In Pondicherry, what happens is there were local self-governments. Local self-governments. Think of them like panchayats. And these panchayats basically are called communes. That's a French word for panchayat. And now there will be a movement which will start within Pondicherry, automatically within the communes, that we want to be part of India. And this issue will become so big that they will automatically hold a referendum within themselves. And when this will happen in 1954, again, overwhelming majority of the communes are going to say that now we want to be part of India. They will send a representation to the government of India. The government of India is going to then take it up with France. And now with this type of a referendum behind us, France will thereafter start to work to ratify this resolution. And in 1962, Pondicherry will become a part of India. So it's again a very standard, straightforward story, which is that from the time India signed or gained its independence, it raised the issue of the French settlements with the government of France. Jérôme de Souza, a member of the Constituent Assembly, was appointed by the government of India to negotiate with the French authorities in Pondicherry. As a result of these negotiations, the French agreed to hold a referendum in these territories regarding the political status of the French territories in India. However, having sensed that the result of this referendum may be not in favor of merger, the government of India withdrew its support over this concept of referendum. Now, parallelly, there was a movement which starts to develop within the territories of Pondicherry, which is to integrate with India. A momentous event in the freedom movement of Pondicherry or Puducherry occurred on 18th March 1954, when the members of the Executive Council and the mayors of Pondicherry and 7 adjoining communes proclaimed their decision to merge with India without a referendum. 5 days later, the elected members of the Representative Assembly and Municipal Councillors of Pondicherry and Karikal took part in a referendum at Kizhur. Of the 178 members voting, overwhelming majority, 170, favored the merger of French territory with India. 3 days later, an agreement was signed on de facto transfer of French territories to India in New Delhi, and it will be formally ratified close to, and they will still take 6 years to do it. It will formally be ratified in May of 1962. Therefore, Pondicherry becoming a part of India in not even 8 years. Basically, by 1962, Puducherry was part, and 61, go ahead, become a part. Clear, everybody? Is this section clear? Integration of princely states. So we have technically covered this, and this. Now we need to talk about this, which is module number 2. Anyone has any issue in this whole discussion? As I said, these stories really don't matter. Only for your reference, have to just understand the concept here, which is the how India integrated these states. You don't have to actually delve into anything. Just need to know the larger concept here, which is the concept of princely state reintegration. Is it a messy event? Yes, it is a messy event. Was it very, very difficult? Yes, was difficult. And basically between 1947 and 1962, India was still integrating and adding parts to the Indian concept, right? So if this is clear, I can do two things. I can go to language, or I can discuss the answer writing aspect. What do you want me to do? I've already taught Junagadh and Hyderabad yesterday, Anand. Language? Perfect. So we can do that in the end. Okay. You want a plebiscite? Okay, I'll hold a plebiscite. I do not fear the mandate of the people. A means answer writing, B means language. We can do this, no issues. A means you want to do answer writing, B means you want to do language issue. Well, the B's have it by a very small margin, but they have it. So, yes. So, language it is. Democracy. Though this is what is the issue of the first past the post system? What is the issue of the first past the post system? That though answer writing I will do it to you with again today only, but in the end, that though 48% or 43% don't want it, they have to go with the mandate of the 53. This is why first past the post system is not considered very effective, because the vote share itself doesn't really matter. It's about who wins. Okay, that was a lesson in polity. Now, India has consolidated itself basically, but what the irony of the story is, all what I'm discussing with you is also happening parallelly. Now, the problem with proportional representation is that it is very, very difficult to understand. And if you don't have in multi-party system, proportional representation only leads to very, very unstable government. Okay. Now we discuss an issue which exists in India till today, which is language. We have to understand this issue via two things: official language controversy and linguistic reorganization, and generally reorganization. Now remember one thing. This theme is very, very important because a lot of questions are raised with regards to this theme. But what is more important is that from time to time, this is the only theme out of which UPSC is asking the question also. Initially, it only used to talk about linguistic reorganization. It's using now the concept of reorganization itself. It's not about linguistic, it's about reorganization. Now, again, today I will do a whole survey of reorganization. For example, how was different states created? But there is something which you will do separately in what is called internal security, which is called insurgency. So, for example, when I'll talk about Nagaland, the Nagaland insurgency or the Northeastern insurgency will be covered under internal security. So, I'm not going to double it. But I will tell you what is the context, because in India, there were 3 phases in which reorganization happened, and we are still in one phase right now. So, I'll give you a table, I'll give you this whole concept so that you can just write those points in the examination and you basically get your answer. But as I said, there are certain issues embedded in it that I am saying is basically internal security, because for that you would have to go into Nagaland politics, understand the greater Nagaland issue, and that needs a little bit of understanding of internal security. So we are not going to touch that, but I'm going to tell you that basically. So now we discuss first this concept of language. Now, language in India is now I'm starting this theme. We will do this first official language controversy, one of the ones from which now the question can be asked. Now, when we talk about language in India is always been an issue. Every 10 kilometers, in India, language pronunciation changes. Every 50 to 60 kilometers, the language becomes a dialect. And thereafter, India is the land of multiple languages. But the problem with language issue is that because it is something close to people, it can both be used and misused to mobilize the people for good or bad things. So linguistic politics in India still remains an issue because there are certain lobbies, there are certain type of politics which tries to use and polarize Indians. And this is the problem with us, that we are always ready to get differentiated. We're always ready to get differentiated. But what I want you to understand is the difference between language and script. Because it's something which I will teach you separately also when I will discuss it in ancient. But there's a difference between language and script. I'll give you a very simple example. This is which language? But one language can be written in multiple scripts. This is Devanagari. And this is Roman English script. This means that the way you write something is basically script. The symbol system. Whilst the phonetical system, the voices, the sounds I make to say A, B, C, D is basically language. So one language can be written in multiple scripts. And there's one word again which is called dialect. Dialect. And the dialect is nothing but when a language is in its nascent stage, when there's no script associated with it, or it is not having literature, it is called dialect. So, language in India is not about scripts. It's about what you say, what you understand, and what is the larger concept of who controls which language. Now, I'm discussing the first issue with you, which is the concept of official language. Now, tell me, what is the national language of India? Not Hindi. No language. Aman is saying 21. Molly is saying 22. Pritesh, just refresh. Don't worry. No national language. English 24. No, see. How many languages are there in the 8th schedule? All of these languages are national language. See, basically, in the Constituent Assembly the question came up that what is going to be the national language of India? So when this question came up in the Pakistani parliament, they said Urdu. Okay. But the national language status basically is just an honorary status. What is the national language of India? They said whatever is the standard languages across India, recognize all of them. So they killed the issue itself, because national language of India cannot be one language, because it's a honorary identity based concept. Is Hindi, Marathi, Rajasthani, Gujarati one language which everybody speaks? No. So there are two ways to say this, that there is no national language or there are 22 national languages. That basically each and every language which is recognized in the 8th schedule is basically a national language. Because you, and see, the irony is that is why I'll tell you what is the difference between official language. I'm coming to that. The 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution recognizes 22 languages. But have you ever wondered what that recognition actually means? These 22 languages are not put there for just show. It means that these 22 languages together are our national language, and Indian identity therefore is recognized by 22 languages. Now, this was a master stroke by our Constituent Assembly, because there could be riots in India over language. So they said, recognize every language. So equally important, all of them. So if you look at it, the Constituent Assembly killed this issue. It kills the issue. It straightforward said, national language, which is just an honorary position, because you don't get anything out of this basic concept. These were the 22 major languages at that point of time. And that is why when you will fill up the form of UPSC, in the Indian language paper, which is for which you would have to write it, you have all these 22 languages available, because all of these languages are recognized by the government of India. So on online or on different sources, it will say there is no national language. But technically, 8th schedule recognizes not one, but 22 of them. So because national language technically does not have any specific purpose, the government of India recognized all of them. English is not part of this list. English is actually not in this list. Out of these 22 languages, English is not there. It's all Indian languages. So even if somebody asks you, you are saying the same thing. No national language or 22 are the same thing, because there's no one and there is no two, but 22. So the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution very simply says there are 22 languages in India which are accepted as the 22 languages which are accepted by the Constitution of India as a national language. In India, there can be no single national language which can technically be used all across India. There is no language in India which can be used all across India. That is the basic point. Are we clear about this? You can't obviously give the interview in these 22 languages, obviously, but you can write the examination in any of these 22. Okay. Now comes then, what is then official language? See, official language has a purpose. Official language is technically administrative language of India. And very simply, the fact of the matter is that center state higher education courts This is the basic purpose of official language, that center state, state communication, higher education, and the judiciary, what is going to be the language for that. Now here you can't have 22. Here you can't have 22 because center sends something to the state, it would have to give 22 different translations. Tamil Nadu says that there's a terrorist threat, it would then get translated, and we know that in translation mostly the essence is gone. So 22, the Tamil Nadu will say something in Tamil, it will then get translated to Malayalam, then go to Kerala. Nobody knows. It creates a lot of hassle. Not every document can be published in 22 languages. And in higher education, it cannot be that I am doing BA honors in English. Somebody is doing the same thing in some other language. There cannot be 22 books also. There cannot be 22 books also. And basically, center-state communication is very, very important. Here it has to be something which is consistent. And therefore, official language needs to be one language which can be used all across India. And once the center says something, it starts to go to each and every state in that language. In judiciary, it is even a bigger issue. In judicial documents, in every judicial wording really matters. Because in law, it's not about how you learn it, it's about how the judgment is given. If the judgment is given in, for example, Tamil, and it gets lost in translation in any other language, then it is a loss for all of us. Because words like may, shall, state, these small words matter quite a lot in judicial documents. So the official language had to be one, or at least one, because it cannot be multiple. So do we understand the difference between official language and national language? National language, honorary, no real purpose. Official language is actually much more concrete with regards to something which has purpose on the everyday administration of this country. Are we clear about this? Because a lot of students need to know this, get confused here only. Are we clear here? I want everybody's consent here. Official language cannot be multiple because that will lead to disturbance. Yes, very good. Okay. Now, before independence, there was a standard concept that English, before independence, basically the concept was very simple, that English will not be our official language because it is the language of the British and our subjugation to it. Subjugation to them. On the other hand, what was decided was that we will technically choose what is called Hindustani language. Now, what basically Hindustani language is a mixture of Hindi plus Urdu and could be written in both Devanagari and Urdu script. And that is why you would have seen that if you've ever, if you want to see, if you've ever seen, for example, HRA documents, there are the British documents which are there by the INC. They were mostly in Hindustani language Urdu script. So Urdu script was quite common, and in India, it was used quite a lot also. Used quite a lot. And Hindustani basically is a modified type of language, hybrid language. And you would have seen that is why in Hindi, we have Urdu words in Hindi? Yes, we do. And that is basically the reminiscence of Hindustani language. Wherever the nukta comes in, that becomes the influence of Urdu on Hindi. Urdu on Hindi. So basically, Hindustani language was going to be considered as the language of Videshi Sabd. That was going to be considered as the language of independent India. This was going to be our official language. Nobody wanted to give it to English. It was all about Indian languages. We will discuss Vamsi, don't worry about that. However, as soon as independence happened with partition. And if it happened with partition, Pakistan technically chose Urdu as the language, official and national. I will tell you why English now. Wait, don't worry. It's a story. It's a story. I'll tell you why there is still English, because that is the basic point of this theme. English is the national language, is the official language today. I will discuss that with you. Have to be a little bit patient because it develops in a certain way. So as soon as independence happens with partition, Pakistan chose Urdu as the official language. Now, one thing was very clear, that we were not going to choose Hindustani, because Hindustani includes Urdu, and we were not making the national language of Pakistan our own official language. So Hindustani got rejected. Because of Urdu or Pakistan connection. Now this creates an issue. Which is that now what? Because if pre-independence, there's a very standard story that it is going to be Hindustani, not English. Then why is that after independence? The issue is that basically Hindustani can't be the language of India, cannot be, or got rejected because Urdu is the official and national language of Pakistan. So do you understand the underlying issue here? Because what I'll do is, because I'll give you a break here, because there's a very long discussion I need to have and I don't want a break in between there. So are we clear about how Hindustani gets rejected and what is the difference between official and national language? Are we clear about these two things? Yes, we are. Great. So if we are, it is what? 8:25. I'm giving you this break as a longer one. I will see you after. Thank you. Everyone's ready? Breakfast done? Everything done? Okay. Now see, the point here is very simple. What should be our official language? English was rejected before independence, and it was Hindustani. Now, when we get independence, Hindustani gets connected to Urdu, therefore gets connected to Pakistan. So now there was a consideration, simple consideration, that let's go with Hindi. Let's go with Hindi. But there's a problem. The problem is that firstly, Hindi is not spoken by northeastern India, southern India, and though it can be called as a language of the majority of the people in the north, still Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Bengal don't technically speak, along with Amritsar, don't technically speak Hindi. So they technically don't speak Hindi, but they can understand Hindi. So it's not the best candidate, but it's the only candidate which is available. But what is even more problematic is that Hindi technically, as of 1947, is not fully developed. What do you mean by that? That basically there's no scientific, or what we call as literature for technical education, for medicine, for technology. The basic point is Hindi is an underdeveloped language as of 1947, because there is no book which you can read to do engineering. You cannot do any book to read medical sciences. There's no book for which ISRO can develop a rocket. The simple point of the matter is, though Hindi is a very good candidate, Hindi needs time. Hindi needs time. Firstly, there is two considerations here. First, time to develop, and time for southern and northeastern states to learn it. Sanskrit cannot be a good, because Sanskrit no one understands. That is the irony. Hindi little bit understands. Sanskrit you speak all across North India, no one will understand. Who will understand Sanskrit? I will say Sanskrit right now, nobody is going to understand. I don't even know Sanskrit. That is the basic point. The problem of the matter is that Hindi needs time to develop, and southern states and northeastern states need time to learn. And at this point of time, southern states and northeastern states were ready to learn. Basically, they said that, okay, we are ready to learn, but we need time. But the Hindi proponents, they said, no, Hindi is ready. Push it. This is the consideration which is happening between 1947 and 49. This is when the constitution is being in the process of writing. So now Hindi can be chosen, but Hindi has a problem. It is not developed and it is not spoken by everybody. But given the requisite amount of time, it can develop as a good language, and it can also be taught to the southern states and northeastern states. And as it is, the northeastern states and southern states thought that we are already at a disadvantage. So we need some time to learn. So Nehru, there are three basic considerations. First is that Hindi can be used, but Hindi cannot be used fully. Second, Hindi needs time for development, but the proponent said no, it doesn't. And third is that the people who need to learn Hindi also need some time. So based on all this discussion, the fact that Hindustani cannot be used, the fact that English was never under consideration, the fact that Hindi needs time, the constitutional compromise which came in 1950, was very simply, the constitution said in 1950 that the official language of India is going to be Hindi, but till 1965, for 15 years, English will continue to be used as an official language. Because English was one language which everybody understood, because the British had used it all across India, what was decided was that till 1965, India will have two, English and Hindi. And after 1965, it is going to become only Hindi. It is only going to become Hindi. This was the point which was seen as a compromise in this concept. However, there's a problem in this story. The problem in this story is that this is not the solution, or what we see today, it is not the solution we see today. So where did Hindi lose its plot? And that I have to discuss with you. See, as of 1950, the simple point is Hindi till 1965 plus English, and thereafter Hindi. That way, Hindi gets time to develop within 15 years. And in 15 years, you can simply make the southern states and the northeastern states also learn. One generation can learn and go forward at least. Everybody has time to learn. So as of right now, this constitutional compromise makes sense. Yes? Does this constitutional compromise make sense? Because it gives both Hindi the time to develop and also uses a language which was already known, which is English. And the southern states can learn also, and the northern states can develop Hindi further. Now, in these 15 years, till this point, everybody is with me. What is the constitutional compromise? Everybody is with me. I need everybody's consent, because from here, the story is going to become complicated. Yes? Great. Now, if I was an administrator in these 1950 to 1965 period, in these 15 years, the approach of introducing Hindi should be what? It should be aggressive, it should be gradual, it should be systematic. Or how do you introduce this language to the southern states or to the northeastern states? As an administrator, as an IS officer, it should be, Shalu saying gradual, Pranay systematic, Sahil saying gradual, progressive, school curriculum, Shamil, very good. Then what is your strategy? What should be your strategy? Gradual, very good. Systematic, gradual, progressively adding it to the southern states and the northeastern states. We all agree that the concept should not be aggressive, and Hindi should be made as easy as possible to learn and should be introduced at the schooling level, at the college level. It should be easy, and Hindi was easy, and gradual systematic process. Can we agree to this? That we all as administrators agree that the only way you make somebody learn something is a gradual systematic process. Very good. Now, the problem is that Hindi as of 1950 50 was easy to learn, simple, and a gradual approach was needed. However, now comes the but. However, the Hindi protagonists, the Hindi proponents fully lost the plot. Fully lost the plot. Whilst at this point of time, the southern states were ready to learn, though they knew at a disadvantage. For the betterment of India, for the vision of India, they were ready to basically learn it. However, there are two things which the Hindi proponents did, and which is going to fully make this process very, very difficult thereon. First is that they started to push for quick change and adoption, which is that it is technically an aggressive policy which they follow. But more than that, what they did, and that was the blunder, is that they changed Hindi itself. And it is called the process of Sanskritization of Hindi. Basically, in the name of purity of language, easy words removed and new Sanskrit words added. And if anybody has ever seen at university level, anybody who says Bol Chal Hindi, they can actually understand Bol Chal Hindi. Bol Chal Hindi is whatever we say in the day-to-day life. But if you will ever see academic Hindi, ever picked up a Hindi literature book, or you've ever seen basically, for example, university level books in Hindi, even Hindi people did not understand it. And this is called the Sanskritization of Hindi, which is that Hindi was easy to learn, but now Hindi they started to change. Kim kartavya vimud. Dvand is an easier word, but Kim kartavya vimud. They started to now add full Sanskrit words into Hindi in the process of purifying Hindi. And the irony of this, is Nehru was sitting and listening to All India Radio, and he heard the English bulletin coming from the Hindi belt itself. When the Hindi broadcast started, Nehru thought that there was a new language which was being spoken, which is that he did not understand the bulletin itself. And this is the new problem which the Hindi proponents start to do. That basically the people who understood Hindi now can't understand Hindi, and the southern states say that why are you changing Hindi and making it so hard? So the pathway for Hindi was very, very easy. The pathway for Hindi was very, very easy, but because the Sanskritized Hindi was so difficult, that even people like Nehru, a proper Hindi belt person, did not even understand it only. And if this is going to be your approach, will these southern states be ever ready to accept it? The people who are already at a disadvantage, they were ready to compromise for the nation, and now you are asking them to technically shove it down their throat. And if not that, the biggest proper point is the Hindi proponents shot themselves in the arm. They actually took the gun and shot themselves in the foot, because by making Sanskrit as or Sanskritized Hindi, and I'm actually not in any way underestimating or underplaying this aspect. If you really want to ever read proper Hindi, just write Hindi literature. Hindi literature books are very, very difficult. Proper Hindi belt person, a pansa person, I can guarantee that even if you've done Sanskrit at school level, you will struggle to actually even follow it. It is that much level of difficulty. And now the whole concept is that this is going to mess up the process, because by 1955-56 it was becoming evident that the Hindi proponents had lost the plot. And that is why when there will be an official language commission, which will be established in 1956, 55-56, the Language Commission was asked this question by the president. The Language Commission was asked this question by the president, that is Hindi ready? Is Hindi ready? You are mixing up two things. It is not state reorganization. We are doing official language. We are doing official language. This is not official language commission. Don't mix these two things up. Not we are talking about Andhra Pradesh. The simple point is, when the official language commission is going to be established, it will be asked a very simple question by the President of India. Is India ready for transition to Hindi? There were 5 members in that, and there were 2 members, one out of Tamil Nadu and the other from Bengal, and both said that no. However, the other 3 said yes from the Hindi belt. And now you can see that at the official level itself, there was a lot of dissenting notes. Tamil Nadu and Bengal, the southern states, their approach was now changing. But the most dangerous thing which happened was that once this official language commission report was submitted, which technically said that yes, Hindi is ready, the president now said a very important line. He did 2 things. The president did 2 things. First is that he said that the Hindi directorate should be established, which should translate all books to Hindi. But on the other hand, he says a very, very dangerous line. He says a very, very dangerous line, which is that we are considering that in UPSC, Hindi should be made alternative medium, and before that it should be made qualifying paper. Now this is going to ring a lot of alarm bells. This is going to ring a lot of alarm bells, because now this is problematic. Because now the students will start to say, we already are at a disadvantage because our mother tongue is not used in the UPSC examination. We have to either learn English or we have to learn Hindi, but Hindi has now become hard to learn. But the concept was that alternative medium becomes that you can write the whole paper in Hindi. But the biggest issue is that if it becomes a qualifying paper, in that sense, everybody would have to clear this examination via doing Hindi at some level or the other. And as soon as this notification comes through, or there's a little bit of indication that this is going to happen, there is a total breakdown of, of cooperation. And now southern states became very clear that we will not let Hindi be pushed on us, because northern sector is getting an advantage. They know Hindi already. They don't have to learn English. They can do just Hindi. That is their mother tongue. We will not now take this new modified Hindi and we will not learn it. And Nehru could sense this tension. And that is why Nehru in 1959 gave a very important speech in which he said that I will not transition to Hindi on the basis of the fact that do the northern states understand it. I will transition to Hindi when the southern states tell me. And he introduces a bill in 1963, which is called the Official Languages Act 1963. And he says that we will reconsider this option of 1965. But he used a word, we may reconsider. And now the southern states said that, why did you say may? Why did you not say we shall? Now, what is the difference between these two lines? Which line has more uncertainty? May. So basically, if I say I may give you notes, meaning that I may not give you also. So I may or may not basically gives you uncertainty. I shall give you notes means that I will give you notes. So there is 100% guarantee that I will give it to you. So now Nehru's attempt technically fails because he is not able to fully quench the thirst or quench the tensions in South India, because he used a word may. And by 1960, it was clear that something explosive is going to happen. But what is going to happen is that in 1964, what will happen? Nehru will die. Jawaharlal Nehru, 14 years after India becoming a republic, will die in 1964. And now the tension will become even more explosive because the person who comes in place of him, Lal Bahadur Shastri or Shastriji, he died natural death. Now, Lal Bahadur Shastri was not very sensitive to this issue as much as Nehru was. And in 1964, he proposed a major explosive concept. The 1964 concept was that Lal Bahadur Shastri said that I am considering introducing Hindi as an alternative medium in public service commissions. Basically, the Karnataka State Public Service Commission, the Kerala Public Service Commission, the Andhra Pradesh Public Service Commission, basically all state public service commissions, Hindi could now be written as an alternative language, which technically puts the students and the aspirants in their own state also at a disadvantage, because they have an advantage of the vernacular. But now a person from North India can come and write the whole paper in Hindi and clear this examination. And now there was no chance that the southern states were ever going to agree. And that is why when in the year of 1965 came, when 1965, 26 January came, there was proper demonstrations. It was the southern, in Tamil Nadu, the DMK had now argued that this will be a day of mourning. People will come on the streets, railways, post office, any symbol of the center is going to be burnt. And what is more dangerous and what is the sad part here is, 4 students are going to self-immolate themselves, which is burn themselves, saying that if I cannot even get a job in my own state, and if I can't get a job in UPSC, then what am I living for? And they will burn themselves. 62 people will die roughly in the clashes between the police and the people who were agitating against Hindi's adoption. And now it very simply became a situation in which southern states were not even ready to listen. At this point of time, the priorities of Lal Bahadur Shastri were different because of the war which was happening with Pakistan. But the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru and the Minister of Information and Broadcasting, what is her name? Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi is now going to fly to Madras multiple times to tell them that we will figure it out, don't worry, we will figure it out, don't worry. And in this period, she was seen as a confidence builder. However, unfortunately, after the war in 1966, when India had, Lal Bahadur Shastri had gone to Tashkent to sign the agreement on the Indo-Pak war, he will die. And now Congress was in crisis again, twice in 2 years, for who will become the next Prime Minister. And Indira Gandhi will become the next Prime Minister in 1966 after defeating Morarji Desai, which we'll discuss separately. We'll discuss political trends. And as soon as Indira Gandhi is going to become the Prime Minister after Shastri's death, she will move to the Parliament. And in the Parliament, she will introduce an amendment to her father's act, the Official Languages Act of 1963. And in the amendment, it was now written, heart attack. It was written that the 1965 cutoff date was gone. It said that Hindi is the official language of India, and English will continue to be used as the official language. And what is going to be developed is the concept of 3-language concept, which was technically never applied again. India now became a country which had two official languages, English and Hindi. It was said that when the southern states come together and pass a resolution for changing the status from Hindi or changing the status of English being removed, then only English will be removed. If not, this English clause will never be removed. It has never been removed till today. But what she proposed was that there should be a three-language concept. The three-language concept was what? That in North India and in South India, English and Hindi should be taught. However, in North India, one southern language should be taught. And in South India, Hindi should be taught. What happens in North is that rather than teaching them southern languages, they bring in Sanskrit, French, German. We were ready to learn any other language other than southern languages. And in South India, Hindi still persists in certain schools. However, they also now give the concept of the third language being a foreign language. And this is why today in India you have not one but two. Yes, not in English and their vernacular plus Hindi. Vernacular plus Hindi. Now, vernacular plus Hindi. So now do you get it why India has not one but two official languages? Now you get the story of it, because if you get the story of it, I will read it out from the PPT to you. Simple to simple point is, it was the Hindi proponents' mistake. They pushed it too much. They became too aggressive, and that because of that aggressiveness, that in turn translated into the concept of alienating the people of southern India and northeastern India. How can English remove from official language? Only when all southern states pass a resolution. That will never ever happen. That will never ever happen, because the politics of Hindi still is alive in southern India, and it is already something which is a contagious issue across northeastern India and south. So very simply, India is now in perpetually this two language concept, and that is why when your prelims paper comes through, when your prelims paper comes, on one side you have English, one side you have Hindi, and in the state PCS examinations, you will have the concept as either Hindi or English and the vernacular of that state. So you will see, for example, in Kerala PCS, the exam will be in Malayalam, and on the other side there will be either Hindi or English, and mostly English is used. And this is the concept which is there. So with regards to India, we now have two official languages, and that is why in the examination, in prelims examination, or when in the UPSC, when it comes to Indian language paper, you cannot just choose Hindi, but can choose any of the 22 languages which are recognized by the 8th schedule. Yes, everybody. Does this make sense? Can I tell you the story through the PPT now? It's not difficult, it's just that it's a long story. Hindi language is not a compulsory paper, Shalu. You can, in the prelims form, when you fill that up, and you check my video which I made called how to fill the prelims form, it will ask you the medium of mains examination, it will ask you the medium of your optional, it will ask you, English is already a compulsory paper. It will ask you what Indian language you want to give. Northeastern students are exempted from that, which is called language A paper. This Indian language paper, if you will see, there will be a top down, and that you will have all the 22 languages of India, not just Hindi. So if you select Hindi, then it is something else. If you don't select Hindi, so yes, Telangana, there will be Telugu and English. Yes. So yes, basically, Shivam, because it is in PCS examinations, one official language plus vernacular. So mostly they choose English because everybody understands that. You can choose from the 22 languages. Hindi is not compulsory. Are we clear about this story? Can I tell you the whole story again through the PPT? Are you now able to make sense? What is this whole concept? Official language controversy. Okay. You can write an answer also, right? That why was there a breakdown between the southern states and northern states with regard to, or why was the southern states not ready to accept Hindi language, or the way the official language controversy panned out? Yes. Yes, Subarna, in Tamil Nadu, it will be Tamil plus English. Yes, very good. See, there is no medium option for interview. In interview, you can't choose the 22 languages. Please understand this very, very straightforward. The interview process is totally different. That's called a DAF1, DAF2 form. I am telling you as of right now what happens in prelims and mains. That's the basic form. Okay. Though both papers are qualifying, Aman, English and Hindi, both are qualifying papers. You don't, in the English and Indian language paper are not counted. They are only there to qualify. Only there to qualify. Yes, Deepika. In a way, that is also the reason why we persisted. No, Pranay. Okay. Now, when it came to the question, there should be one language or one national language. The constitution makers virtually accepted all major languages of India as languages of India. Therefore, there is not one but 22 different languages. Himanshu, you can do that here. Now, very simply, the fact of the matter is, by doing this, they did a master stroke. However, the British administrative language was English, and there needed to be one common language for the central government to carry out its day-to-day functioning with the state governments. Also, as the higher education, administration, and court and linguistic areas. This was basically courts, higher education, administration, and center-state relationship. There needed to be one language, and that is the concept of official language. Now, the consideration was, should it be English or should it be Hindi? Are we clear about this issue? Basic issue. There are different queries you have about your examination. Are we clear about the official language issue? Yes? Okay. Now, in 1925, when the Congress session happened, there was a very standard saying that the proceedings of the Congress shall be constructed as much as possible in Hindustani, and the English language or in any other provincial language could be used by the speaker if they're unable to speak Hindustani. Even in the Nehru report in 1928, Hindustani was considered written either in Devragari or Urdu script as the common language of India, and the use of English would not be there after a point. When Mahatma Gandhi was asked about what is the purpose of English, he said that I would always accord it a second place, an optional language issue. And Nehru also echoed the same sentiments in 1937 when he said the questions of language, and during the Constituent Assembly, the same questions were coming up that should we go with English or not. However, there were two arguments once Hindustani gets rejected. The pro-Hindi stance was it is the language of largest number, though not the majority. And urban areas from northern India, from Bengal to Punjab, and in Maharashtra, Gujarat also speak this language. However, the other part of the story was the critics of Hindi said that it is a less developed language vis-a-vis other languages, and it was not the language of science and politics. Hindi adoption would also put non-Hindi speaking states at a disadvantage in the educational and economic sphere, and particularly in the competition of government and public service sector. So basically, it's all about how to clear UPSC. Now, Nehru, as of 1949, has these three considerations in his mind. Basically, the speakers or the spokesperson of Hindi said for immediate switch over in 1950. The non-Hindi areas said that we can retain English for some time, not forever. And Nehru, on the other side, was in basic consideration was for making Hindi the official language, but he was also in favor of continuing the English as an additional official language and a gradual transition to Hindi. And that is why the constitutional compromise which came through in the post-partition era, Hindustani was linked to the symbol of secession. Now, the replacement of Hindustani had to be something. And the basic point is Hindi in Devanagari script with international numerals. International numerals means that we don't use this. We use 1, 2, 3, 4. So that at least the maths and the calculations are in international standards. So Hindi in Devanagari script with international numerals would be India's official language. English was to continue for use in official purposes till 1965, when it would be replaced by Hindi. Hindi was to be introduced in a phased manner, and after 1965, there would be only one official language. Anybody has any issue till this point? I'm again just reading out the same story to you again through the PPT. Yes, very good. Thereafter, it was assumed that Hindi protagonists would overcome the weakness of Hindi and they will win the confidence of non-Hindi areas. Contrary to that, however, instead of taking a gradual, slow, moderate approach to gain acceptance of Hindi or by non-Hindi areas and to rely on persuasion, the more fanatical among the ones preferred imposition of Hindi through governmental action. But where the Hindi proponents actually lost the plot is here. A simple standard language which could be acceptable to everybody was the need for the hour, and Hindi could be spoken and written in what is called easy way itself. However, they tried to Sanskritize the language, replacing commonly understood words with newly manufactured words, unwidely and little understood. In the name of purity, now they were making a language which not even the Hindi speakers understood. Therefore, now the conflict is starting to brew. In 1956, when the report of the Official Language Commission is going to come through, the two members of the West Bengal and Tamil Nadu will dissent. And to now implement the committee's report, which said that yes, we are ready, because three members said yes. The basic point of the matter is in April of 1960, now the concept was that the president said that we need to be ready for the transition. Hindi, and this is the consideration which came in 1960, Hindi would become an alternative medium for the UPSC or Union Public Service Commission examination, but at present it would be introduced as a qualifying subject. This report also led to the establishment of Hindi Directorate, which was going to actually technically translate everything and specifically the constitution. All these measures aroused suspicion and anxiety in non-Hindi areas and groups, and this in turn will lead to Nehru's response in 1959, 7th August. I would have English as an alternative language as long as the people require it, and I would leave the decision not to the Hindi knowing people, but to the non-Hindi knowing people. He introduces an act called Official Languages Act 1963 to remove the constitutional mandate. However, the act laid that English may continue to be used in addition to Hindi, and the non-Hindi group criticized Nehru for using the word may and not shall. However, Nehru will die. Lal Bahadur Shastri was unfortunately not sensitive enough to the non-Hindi group. He declared that he was considering making Hindi an alternative medium in Public Service Commission examinations. This meant that while a non-Hindi speaker could still compete in all India services in English, Hindi speakers would now have an advantage to be able to do it in their mother tongue. Non-Hindi states' approach fully changed, and now it was about not accepting the changeover itself. And thereafter, in the year of 1965, the DMK organized the Anti-Hindi Conference, and they said that 26 January 1965 should be accepted as a day of mourning. Students concerned about their careers, apprehensive that they would be outstripped by Hindi speakers in all India services, would then be more active in this agitation. The slogan was Hindi never, English ever. Students will now become part of this movement statewide, and it will start to spread. Throughout February, there was large-scale destruction of railways and other union property. 4 students burned themselves to death in protest against the official language policy. 2 Tamil ministers, C. Subramaniam and Alagasen, resigned from the union cabinet itself. And this agitation will go on for till 2 months, taking over the lives of 60 people in police firings. Now, once Shastri is going to die, because in Tashkent, Indira Gandhi, the Minister of Information Broadcasting, was going to fly to Madras multiple times. With the death of Shastri, she is going to become the Prime Minister. She had already won the trust of the people, and now she wanted to get a solution to this dispute. Indira Gandhi moved the bill to amend the 1963 Official Languages Act, which is going to be passed on 16 December 1967 with 205 votes. The act remained technically removed the unambiguity or the ambiguousness of Nehru's statement. It provided, now listen to me, this is what is the current situation. It provided that the use of English as an associate language in addition to Hindi for the official work at the center, and the communication between center and non-Hindi states would continue as long as the non-Hindi states wanted it, with full veto powers to this question. Virtually, bilingualism was introduced in India. The parliament adopted a policy laying down that public service commission should be conducted in Hindi and English, and state service commission just need to add Hindi or English in the examination. The states were to adopt a 3-language formula in which in non-Hindi areas, mother tongue, Hindi and English should be taught, and in Hindi areas, a non-Hindi language, preferably a South language, plus Hindi and English should be taught as a compulsory subject. And this in turn is what is your what we call as the official language controversy. Yes. To understand the issue and to understand this feeling, just imagine that UPSC today says that in order to qualify this paper, you need to know Mandarin. You have to qualify Chinese language. And if you don't qualify the Chinese language paper, you cannot become an IS officer. That is the feeling which basically the southern state students had, which is that they were somehow at a disadvantage, and now Hindi was becoming harder. So if you understand this basically, that is Shamil, that is the basic point. If you understand this basically, I can take a 5-minute break here and then we can discuss state reorganization in India. We can? Okay, so it is 9:31. Last 1 hour with me, 9:36. We come back. What is called reorganization of India. Now again, when India was getting or was on the verge of getting independence, and if you remember, there was a line in the Nehru report. It said that India would have what is called linguistic boundaries, which is that the internal division of India was going to be technically based on the concept of language. That you go to, for example, Gujarati, Maharashtra, Marathi, Karnataka, Kannada, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh, Telugu. The basic point was it was decided that language is going to be the internal division of India. This is the pre-independence stance. And we saw that in the Nehru report itself, that it was very, very well reiterated that internal division of India would be language. However, when we did get independence, now it became an issue to implement linguistic boundaries. Now it becomes difficult to basically implement linguistic boundaries because everything which you see in or blue is basically not part of India. So what Patel has a consideration in 1947 is that there is already the partition which is happening. There's a war with Pakistan which is happening in Jammu and Kashmir. Now he thought that should in 1950 we go for the reorganization of India on the basis of language. This was the question in his mind. Should we use language? Now you tell me that if India was so fragile that basically on this border, on this border, and on this border, India is burning, should India have gone for a language-based reorganization of India throughout, which is redrawing the boundaries internally? And as you said no, the answer to this question was also no. And this was only going to destabilize further. But for this, there was one committee which was established, which is called the S.K. Dhar Committee. And to S.K. Dhar Committee, the question was given that should India go for linguistic boundaries? Should India go for linguistic boundaries? And the answer to this question was no. Administrative convenience is what matters. Language would only create even more, or reorganization would create even more problematic aspect, and that would in turn lead to more and more internal disturbance, So very simply, the point of the matter was do not go for what we call as linguistic boundaries right now. Linguistic boundaries right now. And that is the basic point. That we can't go for linguistic boundaries right now. But the demand was quite high for linguistic boundaries. Redraw boundaries on which basis? Linguistic basis. And the answer is no. Now the demand was very high, so the Congress had to do a drama. And the Congress drama is called the JVP Committee, which is Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and Patabhi Sitaramaiah. Where did we know where Patabhi Sitaramaiah from? Yes. Gandhi versus Bose. And basically, now these three will again consider the question, should we go for, this is again 1948, should we go for linguistic boundaries And the answer to this question is no. And they said that we will not go for it, but we will consider it later. Now, basically, there is the answer to this question before independence was the same, or before India wrote the constitution was the same. India will become too destabilized and linguistic boundaries are dangerous. And I think we agree with our constitution makers on this. Do we? Yes. So when the first map of India was created, it was created like this. It was created like this, which is called the concept of A, B, C, and D states. A, B, and C, and D states. Basically, A, B, C, and D are how India was organized under 1950, the constitution itself. Now, notice something. A is Assam, Bihar, Bombay, MP, Madras, Odisha, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal. Don't these sound familiar to us? Don't these sound familiar to us? Yes, basically, these are nothing but the 11 provinces previously there. So they put it into A. Then Hyderabad, Jammu Kashmir, Madhya Bharat, Mysore, Patiala, the Patiala and East Punjab sector, Rajasthan, Saurashtra, Travancore. These are nothing but princely states. C was princely states which were too small. This basically became what are called princely states and chief commissioner's area. Again, these are now UTs. And in part D, we had the Andaman and Nicobar Island. And in part D, we had alone the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, this was the easiest solution to this problem. This was the easiest solution to this problem, which is that don't complicate it too much. Simply pay part A, part B, part C, and part D. This was important for the simple point of the matter, the stability of India. However, the problem is that Madras presidency or Madras technically has even Telugu speakers and Tamil speakers and even parts of Malayali speakers. And the southern politics and in Madras, there was more and more rising tension over this. And what is going to happen is that a very important freedom fighter in 1953, his name was Poti Shrimalu. Poti Shrimalu is going to sit on to fast onto death for the demand of the state of Andhra Pradesh or Andhra state. Unfortunately, the government is not going to give a lot of heed to his fast onto death, and unfortunately, he will die after close to 52 days of fast. And when he will die, there will be again rampage in this sector. And once there is proper rampaging in this sector, it will in turn lead to the conceding of the first linguistic demand, which is the creation of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. The first linguistic state is going to be born, which is Andhra Pradesh. Now, this opened the floodgates. And now the government of India is going to establish what is called the Fazal Ali Commission under Justice Fazal Ali, K.M. Panikar, and H.N. Kunzuru. Justice Fazal Ali was given the basic task to decide if India was ready for linguistic states. And he said that yes, India is ready for linguistic states. He asked for the abolition of this part A, B, C concept, which is that there should be no three-tiered system. Yes, he said language can be used as the basis of reorganization, but he very importantly said the theory of one language, one state should be rejected. What does this mean? This means that it should not be that only Marathi speakers can be in Maharashtra, only Kannada speakers can be in Karnataka. It as much as homogeneity should be given according to the district level, the fact is that it should not be that you only have those same speakers. You cannot be denied residence and access to a state because you don't speak the language. Is this as a fundamental right which we have? Is this a fundamental right that we cannot be denied residence or employment on the basis of language? And that is why one language, one state concept, because it's a fundamental right that you cannot be denied. We have the freedom of movement and we have the freedom of residing in any part of India. And the basic point of the matter is that this meant that it cannot be that you cannot go into a state because you don't speak that language. Now, Justice Fazal Ali is going to say that there are 4 considerations which need to be there when making a linguistic state. When making a linguistic state. These are very interesting considerations. The first being that the creation of a state should only strengthen the unity and security of India. It should not destabilize India. So it should not be that you make 4 states in Rajasthan, anywhere you see small. No. It should not be something which destroys India. It has to be, yes, Pranay, it has to be basically based on the concept of unity. If a state's creation destabilizes India, then it should not be followed. Then as much as linguistic and cultural homogeneity should be there, should technically be considered. That, okay, we can create homogeneous states as much as possible, but no one language, one state. But the next 2 is very important. And the third one is the most important. It said that financial and economic considerations should always be taken into account, which is that it should not be that you create a state which is not viable only, economically viable, which is that you divide a state which is big but into 3 parts and the 3 parts cannot survive in state GDP. And it's a very important point you need to understand that basically there should be no consideration in which there is a state which is economically and administratively non-viable totally. And the state should also lead to the welfare of the people along with the nation. So, when we were technically going to get independence, I'm again repeating it to the PPT, the concept was that on the eve of independence, it was a given that India would get linguistic principle or linguistic state. However, with economic crisis, law and order problem and war, it was taken into consideration that consolidation of this nation was more important and going with linguistic boundaries or internal reorganization would intensify regional linguistic rivalries and unleash destructive forces and damage the unity of the country. Therefore, when it came to the first consideration, the S.K. Dhar Commission was given this question that in 1948, the Linguistic Provinces Commission was established under S.K. Dhar. And he said that integration of princely states should be mostly be ad hoc. Ad hoc means temporary. And more than that, recommended that on everything should be on the basis of administrative convenience and not linguistic principle. Therefore, when they rejected, the JVP commission is formed. It's a drama which the Congress party does with the three big stalwarts, and it again dismisses the concept of linguistic basis. However, they said that we will re-examine it later in the light of public demand. And now there will be a concept that basically they will create this in 1950 via the Constitution of India. However, what is going to happen is that the post JVP protests in states is going to strengthen itself. The Andhra state is going to become the major issue in the Madras presidency. On 19th October 1952, a very, very famous freedom fighter from Andhra is going to go for his fast unto death, and he will die after 52 days of fasting, and there will be rioting in this whole sector. The government immediately gave in to the demand, and the first linguistic state came up in the form of Tamil Nadu for Tamil speakers and Andhra Pradesh for Telugu speakers. Now Fazl Ali Committee is technically established, and the result of the Fazl Ali Committee is this, which is the concept of State Reorganization Act of 1956, which was technically adopted as a constitutional amendment. Now, this was the 7th amendment to the Indian Constitution. Can anybody tell me one thing? First, do you understand the whole story? How did we come to linguistic boundaries? Are we clear about this? Yes, we are. Now, the simple to simple point which I am trying to now, which is the point is, tell me one thing. Under Article 3 and 4, a boundary of a state can be changed, or even the name of a state can be changed, anything. Now tell me one thing, why is this a constitution amendment bill? Very good, Mohan. Very good. Great. It's a constitution amendment bill. Why? It is a constitution amendment. Why do we need to amend the constitution? If any bill or any act which changes the federal structure, doesn't it need to be a constitution amendment bill, which needs to be even ratified by half of the states? Yes. So this is the basic principle here. You cannot apply Article 3(4) here because it will change the whole federal structure. When the federal structure changes, it has to be an amendment to the constitution. So A, B, C, D removed, and now we have 14 states and 6 union territories, which are introduced: Andaman, Delhi, Manipur, Tripura, Himachal Pradesh, Lakshadweep, Minicoy, which is technically Lakshadweep. Now tell me one thing. In this map, there are 2 places where you can see there's still an issue. What are the 2 places? Okay, this, which is Maharashtra, and this, which is that a whole northeast is still called Assam, and Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Punjab still has Haryana. Punjab still has Haryana. Now, basically, this is the first proper linguistic map of India. Now, let me talk to you about why Bombay was not bifurcated. See, Bombay presidency was under consideration for bifurcation, but the problem was Gujarat also wanted Bombay city, and Maharashtra also wanted Bombay city, which is Mumbai. Now, the problem of this story is very simple, that Bombay city is the commercial capital of India. Chaitra till 1030 is the commercial capital of India. And if it is the commercial capital of India, very simply, it will in turn boost the state GDP of that state. So neither were ready to decide. So what the center proposed was that what we will do is, we will do one thing. Let's do one thing. Let me give you a joint capital as Mumbai, but Mumbai is going to become a UT. Now you tell me, will that be acceptable to the either states? Because if it becomes a UT, then who will get the revenue? Who will get the revenue? The center. So basically, neither are ready to give to each other and neither want to give it to the center. So very simply, this is a deadlock, and this deadlock was not finalized by 1956. That is why this was not done. However, as soon as the State Reorganization Act is going to be passed and this area is not going to get bifurcated, there will be violence which will start to erupt between 1956 and 1960 in Bombay city, in Bombay and in Gujarat itself. And after 4 years of struggle to find a solution, along with the concept that basically Mumbai was now becoming more and more explosive with regards to politics, the Congress will start to lose seats in this area. And what is going to happen very simply is that in 1960, finally, Bombay will be given to Maharashtra after long-standing demand. Ahmedabad will be made the capital of Gujarat, but Gujarat will be given a grant to create a new capital, which is now Gandhinagar. The next problematic zone is Punjab. Punjab has two speakers, Hindi speaking, and Gurumukhi speaking, which is Punjabi speaking. Here, Akali politics will become more and more aggressive and in turn lead to proper clashes between the Hindi and Punjabi speakers. And the solution to this is going to come in 1966 when two states will come out, rather three states will come out. The hill states are going to be made into Himachal Pradesh. Haryana will be created and Punjab will be created with a joint capital, Haryana, Punjab, Chandigarh. The first planned city of independent India. Chandigarh will now become the joint capital of Punjab and Haryana. Now, this completes the linguistic part of reorganization. This completes the linguistic part of reorganization. However, there are two other phases of reorganization also. Can I discuss them with you via a slide? And I can just write everything down on one page. Yes, very good. So basically, there are in India, I'll not even make 3, I'll make 4 stages. It will become more easier. There are basically 4 different stages. Yes, Assam, which is Northeastern Reorganization, it is called. Okay, very good. And in that, we'll discuss Sikkim. I hope linguistic reorganization is clear, everybody. This is clear. This whole process, which is how Gujarat and Maharashtra get solved, how thereafter 62 Pondicherry added, 61 Goa added, 66 you have Punjab and Haryana added. Then I'll talk about Nagaland and others. Yes? Okay, because that is tribal reorganization. Now, and if you can learn this box, your work is done for mains examination. If you can learn this box, your work will be done. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Phase 4. Phase 1 is basically linguistic reorganization. This is between 1947, it is between 1950 to 70s. And the principle here is language, S.K. Dhar, JVP and Fazal Ali Commission. It starts with Andhra and ends with Punjab and Haryana. I hope nobody has any issue with the first phase. Yes. Now, the second phase is where it goes into what is called tribal reorganization of Northeast, wherein basically the principle is tribal identity and protection of culture. And here it starts with Nagaland and is linked to the Tribal Reorganizations Act. So basically in phase 2, what we see is that the Nagaland sector is the first to technically being carved out. And the basic point is that the Nagas were very clear that they are technically not Assamese. And in the northeastern sector, there was a new growing demand that basically Assamese identity does not do justice to our tribal identity. Therefore, we need a separate state structure. And that is why when the very famous Northeastern Areas Reorganization Act will be passed in 1971, it will upgrade the status of Manipur, Tripura, Meghalaya, and also introduce what is called the Arunachal Pradesh and the Mizoram sector. This whole sector was reorganized 71, 72, 75, 87, 1991, which I'll come to 1991. What I need to discuss with you here is Sikkim. But the basic point is Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Meghalaya, Assam are now the 7 sisters will emerge by the end of 1980s. By the end of 1980s, and Nagaland and Manipur both see insurgency with regards to the demand of statehood. They believe that Assamese identity does not work for them. The Assamese identity is not actually doing any form of justice. Therefore, they needed their own state for protection of their identity. Now, in this curious case is Sikkim. In this curious case is basically Sikkim. Can I discuss Sikkim with you? Yes? You're understanding the second principle, right? Tribal organization. The states don't matter here. Nobody needs to learn the dates. Nobody needs to learn the date. Nobody needs to learn the sequence. But what you have to understand here is that the tribal identity was becoming important. Now, when we talk about tribal identity, you just have to write these 4 phases. They will ask you linguistic reorganization, then only first phase, reorganization in India, all phases. Now, the first and foremost point is Sikkim was an interesting case because Sikkim was a princely state. It was a princely state, and when it came to its status, Nehru was very clear that Sikkim can remain independent if it wants to under the concept of paramountcy in a way. And basically, Sikkim was a princely state which did not want to accede to India. But Sikkim, knowing that it was surrounded by such big states, big countries such as Nepal and China and India, it gave India the right to protect it. And that is the concept of protectorate state. So in internal matters, everything was accepted by the Chogyal. Chogyal is the king. And the person who we are technically discussing right now is a person called Chogyal Namgyal. he was given the concept that internal politics you take care of. However, India will hold the defense, communication, and external affairs of Sikkim. So, Sikkim, as of 1950, becomes basically a protectorate state of India. Becomes a protectorate state of India. However, within Sikkim itself, there is the Sikkim State Congress, which starts to now agitate that we don't want to be under the Chogyal, but rather we want to be part of India. And between 1950 to 1975, and this is the standard official story which you have to write. There are multiple versions of the story, but this is the story which Government of India accepts. Between 1950 to 1975, there is a new movement starting under the Sikkim State Congress that they want to become part of India. And Chogyal Namgyal becomes more and more persistent to not let this voice be heard. And he starts to push down on this voice, And he also creates a drama which is called the Sikkim State National Party, which is that he said that there's a party, he created a party which was anti-Sikkim State Congress, saying that we want to be part of India, we don't want to be a part of India. And what is going to happen is that in 1974-ish period, by 1970s itself, Sikkim had become a problematic zone for India. But not for India, but also for China. Basically, because it's a protectorate state, Americans and Britishers used to come to Sikkim, and they were now starting to spy on India and China from Sikkim. Because you can enter into Sikkim from India, from this sector, you can go to China also, you can come to India also. So now it is Indira Gandhi who technically starts to develop this understanding that we need to take a call on Sikkim. And in 1974-75 period, there will be clashes which will happen between the Chogyal and the faction of the people who wanted to be part of India. And once there are anti-royalist struggle and movement in Sikkim, there will be a plebiscite which will be held, a referendum which will be held in Sikkim in 1975, that do they want to be part of India? And there will be an overwhelming majority who will say that the protectorate state concept does not work, and Sikkim will be integrated in 1975. So, simple point of the matter is, Sikkim was again a curious case of a princely state surviving, but the people trying to become a part of India. So, in this whole story of Northeastern reorganization and the creation of Sikkim in 1975, it is basically the seven sisters come into existence during this period of tribal reorganization. Tribal reorganization was based on the basic principle that tribal identity is important. Yes, you understand the basic point? Why is the second phase called tribal reorganization? Don't have to learn any of the dates, don't have to learn anything. Understand the principle, that because that is what comes in the examination. Then the third phase of reorganization is based on what is called regional inequality and regional variation. And this happened between 2000 onwards. And the example of this basically is Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and Uttarakhand. Coming out of three big states, MP, Bihar, and UP. And the principle here is very simple, that within these big states, the people cannot get full representation. And basically what was happening was that these areas were technically becoming underdeveloped. And the latest addition in this is also Telangana out of AP, which is that basically this is 2000, this is 2000, this is 2014. The basic point of the matter is that I have a slide for that, don't worry. That basically they said that the larger politics of the state with so less seats in the state assembly, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and Uttarakhand, all three tribal sectors, Uttarakhand technically the hill parts of UP, and Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand the Chota Nagpur plateau itself, it was believed that basically if we make them separate states, they will become much more better in representing their people. And this is why this principle was used to reorganize based on regional inequality, that within the same state, two parts were going, Andhra was going forward, Telangana was not going forward. Chhattisgarh was not going forward, but the main MP part was going forward. And basically, the third phase embodied this concept of regional inequality. And as you can see here, that the basic principle was that it wanted to Telangana, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh was about basically changing politics. Now the last phase is basically national security consideration. Regional variation means within the same place variation in economics. National security considerations and administrative convenience. And in this, the example is Ladakh with legislation, without legislation. And recently in this, there is also Daman and Diu plus Dadar Nagar Haveli merger. Because these were two UTs which technically did not make sense separately. So the latest of all of them, see, 2000s, it was based on the concept of regional imbalance. Thereafter, it was Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Uttarakhand, then Telangana in 2014. And in 2019 and recently 2021, we see the last principle, which is that basically this whole sector became one UT here, and further the fact is that this was created out of regional imbalance, but this was total consideration of national security. It was total consideration of national security, that basically India needs to make sure that this sector does not destabilize. With the removal of 370 and 35A, India created this whole concept. Now, can we all agree to these four phases? Can you understand these four phases? You can. Now, what we'll do is that, see, Ladakh and JNK's phase 4. What we'll do is that on Monday again, I will repeat this aspect of the three phases or the four phases. I will talk about these four because I need to discuss a concept with you, which is two concepts with you. One is the concept that are smaller states better? Are small states better? And what are the demands which still remain? So basically, in India, demands for new states still remain. This is basically all of what you see. From here to basically here, you have phase 1 and phase 2. Here is phase 3. Here is phase 4. You don't have to learn these dates. You don't have to do anything like that. You just have to learn the principle. So can you, in the examination, identify the 3 principles which have been used to technically create these, or create these states or reorganize these states? You can understand these 4 principles? Yes. And the simple to simple point is that there are still recent trends. Wherein Uttar Pradesh, there was a consideration that Uttar Pradesh should be divided into 4, but it again did not make sense. There was a consideration for governance purposes. Let us divide Uttar Pradesh into Paschim Pradesh, Bundelkhand, Awadh Pradesh, and Purvanchal. But this concept never went through. Vidarbha is basically the internal part of Maharashtra, and there has been a long-standing demand that Nagpur capital Vidarbha should be made a separate state altogether, because there has been a long-standing demand that Vidarbha region has been going backwards vis-a-vis the states which are vis-a-vis the districts which are in the front or towards the coast. And there's also Delhi statehood issue, which I will discuss with you again on Monday. The 1991 concept, should Delhi be given statehood? And thereafter, we also have the issue of Saurashtra, asking for, again based on linguistic differences, asymmetry in development, that we should be created as a separate state within Gujarat. And last but not the least, the concept of Gorkha land, which is there, in which the Gorkhas, ethnic Gorkhas in 3 different parts, for example in Assam, in Arunachal Pradesh, and in West Bengal, are asking for a separate state itself to protect their identity. So the simple to simple point is, there is no end to this. There is no end to this. And the recent trends tell us that statehood and state reorganization in India is a continuous process. It's a continuous process. It is still going on, and still there are demands. Now, before I go to the answer writing aspects, can you please agree with me that you understand the concept of Kashmir, you understand the concept of official language controversy, and you understand the concept of linguistic reorganization? Reorganization in India is not just 1, but 4 phases. First was linguistic, S.K. Dhar, JVP, and the Fazal Ali Committee. Second was tribal reorganization, you will do in internal security, the impulse which was there, which is in insurgency. Third was based on regional inequality, that these states were not going forward within the original state. And fourth is national security consideration. So when I meet you on Monday, I will discuss with you 3 things. Are small states better? Are the concept of what is the concept of Delhi statehood demand? Once we are done with that, we'll talk about regional inequality, land reforms, and then go to the wars. Acceptable to everyone? But this is the only theme from which the questions actually come. The question which comes is, and I'll give you a question for your practice. The question which comes is for example, that discuss the phases of reorganization of Indian states since mid 20th century. Yes, Monday is going to be the last class, right? So will you be able to answer this question? No, Shalu, no. Acceptable to everybody? Great. So now, on popular demand, a small discussion with you, which is these words which come in the examination. What do they mean? What are they? Okay. Now, analyze, critically evaluate, discuss, describe, examine, elaborate, give account of, illustrate, justify, outline, summarize, trace. Now, the simplest point here is that see, these words are very similar to each other. Has formation of linguistics strengthened Indian unity? That I will discuss with you. Linguistic states has strengthened Indian unity, but the question is rather, will further reorganization strengthen India or not? You will get, Anshu, you will get the annotated PPT, don't worry. So very simply, analyze, critically evaluate. Now see, basic point is, what is this word critically? First you need to understand this. Critically basically is to give both positive and negative. So if it says analyze and it says critically analyze, then simply the word analyze only give you positives, but when it says critically, you have to also give negatives about that concept. So critically analyze the process of state formation in India and critically analyze this process of state formation. These two things become totally different, because the word critically therefore changes the concept. In the first, you just talk about how it happened. In the second, you tell them what is the differentiation and what is the positive and negative of both. But for this, I have this for you. Basically, what do these words actually mean? So the word evaluate and critically evaluate means to come to a decision based on the overall analysis of pros and cons based on evidence. Basically, when they ask you to evaluate, you have to explain and assess the merit and demerit. While on the other hand, critically comment, is again about your own stand and opinion. When we talk about discuss or critically discuss, whenever the word critically comes, whenever it's about critically, you have to give both positive and negative. But in discuss, you just give them evidence or give them basic points to arrive to a conclusion. I hope this will help you in the longer run, because no one else is going to share this with you. I am trying to do it. Simple point of the matter is that coming to this concept of discuss and critically discuss, in discuss you just give them a point to come to a conclusion. In analyze, you have to discuss why and how. You have to explain the parts itself. In examine is in between analyze and comment. Basically, here you technically talk about why and how, but also give your opinion. And elucidate is nothing but to elaborate and demonstrate via examples. But the most commonly used is explain. In explain, just why and how in simple fashion. The difference between explain and analyze is going to be that basically these words are two very similar words. Analyze, you will give why and how. In explain also you will why and how. But in this, how will be more, and in this, why will be more. So again, I'm repeating myself. Very simply, critically, the word evaluate is to technically assess. You have to tell the person if it is right or wrong. See the difference between evaluate, analyze, and explain. These three things are doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing. But in evaluate, you give the end judgment. Is it merit or it is demerit? Then in examine or explain rather, you explain why. On the other hand, in analyze, you would technically have to give them how more. Illustrate and this is the same. Illustrate also comes here. So I'll write it in evaluate, merit, demerit. In analyze, why part is less, how part is more. And in explain, it is why part is more and how part is less. Get my point, everybody? Justify does not come nowadays. Justify is to technically again explain only. Yes? So if it makes sense and if this slide helps you, generally comment is your opinion. And if it generally helps you, thank you so much for being here on a Saturday. Extremely sorry for this class because at the end of the day, it was because of a glitch that we had to take an extra class. But you all are here, means a lot. Thank you. I will see you for the last time day after tomorrow on Monday. And very simply, we will finish whatever small points are left. I will reiterate these points and we will discuss our small states better. What about Delhi? And then we will discuss each and every war along with the aspect of regional imbalances. Thank you. Take care and bye-bye. Some of you, I see you again at 12 for art and culture. Thank you.